Hello everyone, welcome back to Crossblitz. Today I'll be doing the S ranks on the final map, which is the Sproutwood. And yeah, this is gonna be a little bit shorter than the other maps, mainly because they are pretty new, so I haven't explored them yet to the fullest extent. Um, So I'll just be showing off my strategy that I used to get my S ranks, but I'm not going to be able to go into that much detail how all of the events work and like evaluate the heroes for that map in particular, like I did with the other maps. Um, but yeah, let's go over the modifiers real quick again. So we got Magister's Mask. After you play a spell, deal 1 damage to your hero. So mainly restricting very spell-heavy builds. 1 damage to the hero isn't all that bad. Like over the course of the game, if you win relatively fast, you play like maybe 3 to 5 spells. If you're doing like more of a minion-based deck, but of course there are some mercenaries where that number changes very drastically. So Res would be an obvious example. That is the spell-focused deck. You play spells to increase the power of your spells. You play spells that generate spells, and then you play even more spells. Yeah, it's all spells, spells, spells. So that one gets nerfed a bit, or a lot. Other nerfs apply to anything that sort of has a token generation of some kind of spell generation. So Broodmaster Breakfast is another purview where you generate those blood tokens, which are counted as spells, and each of those blood tokens will deal you extra damage. And yeah, like some of this strategies revolve around like playing 10 blood tokens on a minion to super buff it, and now that's 10 damage to you. Um, there are some other strategies you can do with Break, where instead of going for blood tokens, you kind of lean into the self-damage side of things and like the self-damage relic. Although usually you do want to kind of combine them together anyway, just because you get the self-damage to buff your minions and then you use the blood tokens to restore health. Golems with their blueprints are also pretty spell heavy, because those are counted as spells as well. Poison, um, just like with the Broodmaster, there are a couple of archetypes and some are more minion based, but I'd say the strongest poison archetype does involve playing spells. In particular, you're generating poisons in your hand and use the Vileblood Charm Relic, which transfers those poisons back to the enemy when you play them. And yeah, also the Frost faction is kind of pretty spell heavy. There are some ways to use that to your advantage. The purple faction in particular has a couple of minions that are based off doing self damage and like, gain extra buffs. Although that archetype isn't really fleshed out right now, so it's kind of difficult to build a whole deck around that. Like right now, I think there are 2 golem minions you can get. You can also see that there is a certain relic designed for that faction where you take self damage to draw extra cards. But right now it seems to be an enemy only relic. Yeah, like it's nowhere to be found in the relic list. So yeah, it's also a pretty potent modifier in the last fight where you fight against a poison enemy, because that basically at least doubles the damage, the base damage of poisons. So yeah, gotta be careful about that. It's kind of typical for at least one of the masks or several of them to relate to the bosses somehow and synergize with the bosses somehow. Then pinch price mask, right side, a little bit of outdated text. It says can only select one prize card from each faction. So it used to be that you'd get like 3 different cards after every combat from every faction, and then you could pick up to 3 copies from each selection. Now that's no longer the case. Now you have a bucket system where you're presented 3 buckets of cards with 3 cards each, and you can strike out cards you don't want from that bucket. So yeah, it's just the description of that mask hasn't been changed. What it does now instead is whenever you have one of those buckets, you are no longer able to strike out any cards you don't want. So you have to take it or leave it, and potentially get some extra trash cards that you don't really care about. I think all in all, that's not too punishing of a mask. Compare that to the Sea Captain's mask on the first map, which adds 5 Doomed Recruits to your deck at the start of each game, which are 1 mana, 1/1 vanilla cards that can't be buffed in any way by any trinkets or like relics. For the most part, there is like the buff your vanilla minions, but yeah, you can't put any trinkets on them, so for most of your runs they will just say 1/1s without abilities, and I'd say that's mostly a strictly worse version of the pinched price mask. There's a little bit of nuance, because the pinch price mask means you have those cards in your deck all of the time, and in the Ruinous Reef you get them at the start of battle, which means that you will not be getting the trash cards in your starting hand, although then on the other hand those are in your deck only for the battle, whereas the cards you don't want from the pinch price must enter your deck for real, which means that you can also remove them at a shop if you so choose. But yeah, overall I think that's the most like workable modifier. And then there's the Forsaken mask, which so far yeah, I have cheesed the heck out of. So it says combat start if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, discard 1. It's probably not as bad as I feel it is right now. I mean, when I started playing with 3 mask runs, things like plus 10 armor or like bombs after turn 8 seemed very punishing to me, so I'll probably get used to it at some point. But yeah, I think the fun part of this mask is that you can actually turn that not just into like a tiny advantage, as might be the case with yeah, like the bomb mask, where you can use the bomb deck to shuffle them back at the enemy, but you actually want this to be turned on actively if you're playing one particular deck, which happens to be the discard deck, which is the deck I'll be using for this mask. So yeah, Abraxas, which can gain things like stat buffs or extra card draw or damage buffs or like removal by discarding cards, and this is just an automatic way of doing it. Otherwise, I imagine that it's mainly punishing factions which have some kind of very specific win condition that they want to keep in hand, where they either need to restrict their draw to a point where they never go over 5 cards, or have to risk losing that win con every single turn it's not being played. This could be someone like Brewmaster Break, where you really like the signature minion. This could be something like Ziggy, if you're building around Ziggy Stardust. Yeah, so you kind of need to be careful and try to make your deck manipulation more consistent, like try to get more copies of your more important cards. Today I'll just be having fun with the 3 discards. So I've played with Abraxas quite a bit. So maybe I can say something about that mercenary before I start just rushing down all 3 bosses. So yeah, starting cards. There's Abraxas, 7 mana, 5/5, gains +1/+1 for each card discarded during the game. So with 2 cards are required to bring it up to par for its mana cost, like stat line you'd expect from a 7 mana at least would be 7 power, 7 health. That's very achievable, especially with the automatic discard happening every turn, but also you can put a bunch of extra discarders into the deck. So yeah, pretty good card, pretty solid win condition. Usually not the most important card because there are other ways to win, but notably it is a played effect, and there is one relic which can reactivate played effects, which is the Soul Spark. Every turn you target a minion to re-trigger its played, and this card has a lot of minions with extra played effects, so it is a very worthwhile relic to pick up. There are, like, you can either use it to get more discards out, like most discards happen as a on-played effect, and there are a couple of minions that gain some kind of stat buff as a played effect. So both as an engine and as a payoff, that extra played can do quite a bit, although on this particular map it will cost you 1 health every time you play it. But yeah, that's one way to boost the Abraxas even further. So then you could kind of classify the remaining cards into discard enablers and sort of discard payoffs and some more generic utility. So let's go over the discard enablers, as in cards that discard your cards in a way. So there's the Tiny Ancient, which is a 1 mana 2/2, so more power and health than is to be expected at this cost, because it has the nominal downside of discarding a random card upon play. So, and it is definitely a downside. Like, you do need to actively build your deck in your card choices and relic choices to make this work for you. And even then, it can sometimes make the early game more difficult, because you're gonna run out of cards fairly quickly. But yeah, having 2 power and 2 health is actually pretty great. Another relic I highly suggest for Abraxas, and one that I'll be looking for the most in this game, yeah, on this map, the dual blades, which gives cheap minions dual strike. So anything that is above par in its stat line for cheap minion benefits greatly from the dual strike relic. But there is also a discard specific relic that really synergizes with it. That is the Ceremonial Garb. When you discard a card, give a friendly dragon +1/+1. And I think that's the most powerful thing the discard deck can do. Play a bunch of cheap minions that discard cards, which also happen to be the dragon cards. Get them dual blades so that they have dual strike, and get Ceremonial Garb so that they get buffed. So with that particular relic combination, you play a Tiny Ancient on turn 1, you discard a card, now you have a 3/3 with dual strike on the board. And it's just gonna start blasting the enemy next turn. And next turn you can play like 1 or 2 Tiny Ancients, and then they get even more buffs, and yeah, that can overwhelm the enemy pretty quickly. In that vein, Ancient Scholar, pretty similar to Tiny Ancient, same stat line, same battlecry effect, with 1 extra cost for 1 extra effect, which is on death to a card. And yeah, that is quite an important effect to have in this kind of deck, where you're just gonna discard your entire hand. You do need some way of replenishing your cards. Discard in general is very cycle heavy. You use your hand size as a resource to discard a bunch of them for extra buffs, and then you have a couple of cards to draw some extra cards, and yeah, go through your deck as just something you throw away for buffs. I would say that discard probably has the most draw in the deck. Among most of these factions, there is the Relic for Res, which makes your first Draconic spell draw a card every turn, and you can buff a Serpent Song to get some draw as well, to basically make it a draw 2. That can draw you out of control very quickly to a point where you just end up milling yourself and overdrawing your hand to a point where you just get into the hand size limit. There's some fun stuff with Glimmer you can do as well. Sono Sid also has a draw relic attached to him, and whenever the self-damage deck gets introduced, if it gets introduced, like once that relic is out, there'd be another candidate. But yeah, there is another one drop you can find as well, where you draw extra cards upon discarding cards. There is a 1-mana draw 2. So I would say, for the most part, this is the most draw heavy deck that doesn't just outright clog its hand. So yeah, Tiny Ancient, Ancient Scholar are 2 cards I pretty much always put into the deck, because they are the main main way of discarding cards, which you want to do both to buff up a potential Abraxas, buff up some other cards I'll go over that benefit from discards, and to buff up your ultimate, which there are 2 of them. One says play 8 dragon minions, the other says discard 8 cards. In either case, Tiny Ancient and Ancient Scholar help with both. They both discard a card, and they both are a dragon minion. Then there's Dragonbrand, which discards a card for some damage in a row. It is kind of a weak spell. Yes, a whole row of damage is pretty cool, but 2 damage is a bit low. Like if you compare this for 1 extra mana, this is 4 damage, and increases the damage of any kind of follow-up attack. There are some damage buffs to draconic damage in particular. It's kind of the whole deal around draconic damage. Most draconic damage cards are kind of low in power. Like if you look at Serpent Song, it's 2 mana for 1 damage, so it's kind of meant to be scaled up in some way. But you don't have any way to start out with draconic damage scaling when you pick up Abraxas. So Dragonblast, I think, is not particularly strong. So yeah, as for payoffs, let's go over those. So there's Soulskin Ancient, has Flux. So Flux is a type of card where whenever it gets discarded, it comes back to your hand. So a good number of discard payoffs have that Flux attached to them, so that you can actually play them to get your extra effect. And yeah, Soulskin Ancient in particular gains stat buffs whenever you discard a card, so it's kind of like they have an inbuilt ceremonial garb. Yeah, although it starts out as a 1/2. So I think that Soulskin Ancient is pretty weak. If it is pretty slow to buff up to the point where it's actually useful, like you need 2 discards at least to reach the baseline expected stat line you want from a 3-drop. It can die pretty quickly with just 2 health. Yeah, so, and if you have something like the Ceremonial Garb, you'll get much stronger minions much faster by just playing your Tiny Ancients and your Ancient Scholars. And I also think that there is a much better card that benefits of discarding a bunch of cards. One of the problems with the Soulskin Ancient is that by the time you play it, it is very well possible that you might run out of cards that can actually discard things. Like you might have played 1 Tiny Ancient in your starting hand and discarded another Tiny Ancient. You play like 1 more of those, or maybe an Ancient Scholar on turn 2, and then if you're lucky, you're left with maybe like 1 or 2 discarding cards on turn 4, which is the turn where you actually start scaling the Soulskin Ancient. So kind of inconsistent, kind of slow, kind of frail. Not particularly a fan. However, there is the Ancestral Worm, which I think is, in a sense, kind of similar to the Soulskin Ancient, but much stronger. Instead of gaining stats on the board, it reduces its cost in your hand whenever you discard cards. So if you compare this, like to bring it down to 3 mana, you need to discard 5 cards. Which, if you discard 5 cards, the Soulskin Ancient would have 6 strength and 7 health. So basically the same stat line. However, while the Ancestral Worm is in your hand, it can't be targeted by any sort of removal spells. So it basically scales in your hand. Another very big aspect from the Ancestral Worm is you can actually bring its cost down to 2 mana, which makes it extremely good with dual blades. once you have discarded 6 cards, this is a 2-mana card now, and the Dual Blades will take that into account. And now it is a 6 strength, 6 health dual strike card, which can easily finish off the game. It also has an uncommon tag, so it can get something like Trample. So yeah, with the Soulskin Ancient, you have to rely on getting some kind of mana reduction trinket on it, which I think is a little bit less consistent. I find it is easier to hunt for specific relics than it is to find hunt for specific trinkets. Also, Ancestral Worm has a very high cost. The reason why that is relevant is there is a particular Blitzburst or Ultimate where the damage scales based on the cost of cards discarded. And I think out of the two, Ancient Oblivion is a little bit stronger than the alternative Melody of Memories. Melody of Memories, when you discard a card, you summon every minion and give them fleeting. So for 1 turn, you fill your board with everything you discarded so far. Which, in that particular case, Ancestral Worm is still preferable to the Soulskin Ancient, because when you only get 1 turn to attack, then you'd rather have a 6 down on the board than a 1/2 that you can maybe like give +2 or +3 in the turn you play it. However, with this, you kind of have to build your deck around picking up expensive minions, but then still have cheap cards to play to get to that Blitzburst, and then if you're unlucky, you just keep discarding a bunch of cheap cards or like low value cards, and yeah, that's the minions to then summon are not going to be very strong, and you might even finish the game off of this. Ancient Oblivion, after you play a Dragon minions, which if you start with like Tiny Ancients and Ancient Scholars, that's plenty of dragons. You deal damage equal to the cost of all cards discarded. And so starting out with 8 makes this ultimate basically deal 8 extra damage once you play it. And in my experience, when you have this sort of setup, Tiny Ancient, Scholar, Ancestral Worm, that high cost of the Worm will make it so that Ancient Oblivion will get up to something like 40 damage, which should be a kill for pretty much any enemy. If the enemy has a board full of tough minions, that's basically the main counter to this Blitzburst, because the tough minions are gonna absorb that damage completely, and then only a fraction of the damage will go through to the enemy face. So Ancestral Worm, great card, highly recommended. Then for more generic utility, there's Brewfizz Ancient, which is actually a pretty high value minion, 2 mana 2/2, but it has Tough and Barrier, so it has 2 keywords that increase its durability. Basically can block a minion of any strength for 1 turn, or take any removal spell, well, not any removal spell, but any damage spell at least once. And then with a health buff, it can trade with 1-drops or most 1-drops completely for free. It can overpower 2-drops. It can trade with Tough and Barrier. It can make a 1-to-1 trade with a 4-drop or a 3-drop if you are going off vanilla stats. And it also greatly benefits off of any buff. Like, it is actually a pretty good recipient from ceremonial garb buffs, because it's in the mana range where dual blades helps it get extra power from the power buffs, and tough means that the health increase matters more. Also, any sort of health trinket like +2 health dramatically increases the bulk of this thing. My main issue with the Bruteskin Ancient is that without setup, it doesn't contribute to your discard plan, and isn't a beneficiary of any discard from the get-go. And so in a lot of cases, this is kind of just a card that you kind of like to play, but then it disappears out of your hand because you discard it. And yeah, it's more of a card that's good to have if you combine Abraxas with something else, because it enhances pretty much any deck that doesn't already have a very important 2-drop. And if you combine Abraxas with something else, you kind of want to lean away from discard, because discard doesn't mix particularly well with most other mercenaries. But if you're going for pure discard, I don't recommend Bruteskin Ancient that much. And then there's Hellfire, which is a 2-mana board wipe, 2 damage board wipe for 4 mana with Flux. Bit expensive for the damage it does. Again, kind of the thing with Draconic spells, where they start off low and you need to scale them to deal a lot of damage. Although, with the particular fights that are in the game, that is still actually a pretty good card. Like, there are some fights which are usually pretty dangerous, and the way they're dangerous is that they spam the board with a bunch of 1/1s or maybe 2/2s, like the Razor Sprout, which is like one of the dinosaur decks, some of the groupie decks. And in that case, even though it's abstractly speaking kind of below the damage you'd expect for a 4-mana card, compare this to the Poison Puff Grenade, which also, yes, does 2 damage to all enemy minions, but also has single target 4 damage to something you choose. In practicality, it is still good enough. Flux is also pretty nice, so you can keep discarding it, and the cost actually helps you as well if you are powering up the discard cost-based Blitzburst. So kind of like Hellfire, although I don't really put it in my starting deck that often. So yeah. Tiny Ancient, Ancient Scholar, Ancestral Firm is what I'm gonna be going for. With Ancient Oblivion. And so let's look at the relics then. So this card deck only has one dedicated Elder Relic so far. I think I remember the Ceremonial Garb. Used to be an Elder Relic, but it got changed to be a normal relic, which on the one hand is pretty cool because it means that you can combine it with other Elder Relics, but it also means that it's a bit hard to find. It's not strictly a buff to have that as a common relic, because you can't find it at your first relic node that you grab like right after the tavern. And the common relic pool is quite large, so you're not guaranteed to see it even with rerolls as compared to the Elder Relic pool, which is so small that if you reroll, you should be able to find anything you want to look for. So a couple of leftovers from the last ban were I'm gonna change quite a few things actually, because there are quite a few relics that are pretty good on the discard deck that I usually kind of ignore. So first, Kuro Ocarina. Once per game, when you run out of cards, draw 4 cards. Lots of decks never get to the point where you run out of cards, or yeah, just the way you draft your deck. You should never get to that point where that happens. But with the discard deck, when your hand size is constantly reduced by discarding your own cards, this can actually happen quite often. So yeah, just having that refill is pretty nice. So I'll keep the Bronze Elixir banned because there are some pretty powerful minions for the discard deck that I don't want to see being involved. It's kind of the opposite with Poison, where Poison is such a strong effect that the minions are balanced by having lower stats, which makes Evolve good for those. The opposite is going on with the discard deck, where discard is considered a downside, and so the way that those minions are balanced is that they have bigger stats than usual. Yeah, I like my elemental damage, the draconic damage. I don't have any vanilla minions, so I'll keep that banned. Next thing I unbanned is gonna be the Mimic Ring. So Mimic Ring adds a Mimicking Melody to your hand, which is a spell that copies cards from the opponent's deck, which is alright situationally, mainly good if you kind of end up top decking against your enemy, like where both sides of the fight just draw 1 card every turn, play that card. Mimicking Melody kind of doubles your output in that sort of scenario. So yeah, that's but otherwise you don't really want random cards from your opponent, because the opponent's cards are not going to contribute to the synergies you have in your deck. But crucially, and I've actually missed that text for quite a while, but unlike all of the other spell generators, this one actually states discarded at the end of your turn. So this is 1 extra discard every single turn for free. Spell generators are also just generally pretty good for discard decks, because if you have a relic that generates a spell every single turn, then it's better to just discard that spell instead of discarding one of your minions, one of your cards without flux. So yeah, this is sort of like a buffer for your discard cards. So I'll unban that. Then Soulspark, as I've explained, is pretty good. So that leaves me with 3 more bans that I can choose. So yeah, the dedicated Elder Relic for discard is when you discard a card, you deal 3 draconic damage across the board, which is alright. You know, just some nice board control, some nice removal. However, I do strongly prefer the neutral options. Like, I do want to mostly see the dual blades. So I'm actually going to ban that. Also, one relic I want to point out as well. Skeleton Key draws 2 1-cost minions from your deck, discards them at the end of your turn. Usually quite an alright relic if you don't want to bloat your deck with too many 1-drops, but you want to guarantee having some kind of turn 1 play. You just get your 1-drop at the start of the game, and then you use it, or you lose it. But in this case, the lose it part is actually what you're interested in, because it's 2 free extra discard at the start of the game. So that's also something I want to look out for. I think I'm gonna ban the Magma Trident again. I usually do that. I was just messing around with the Katana deck a little bit, but yeah, this one is usually not that good. Attacks a random minion for 2 damage every turn, but you take return damage from whatever you attack. So I think for the most part I'd want to look into banning a neutral relic then, just to make it more likely to see dual blades. Which slight loss could be quite okay if I pick up a secondary faction somehow. I'm not that interested in doing that for Abraxas, but I might still do it to get the extra money, and if I then happen to see the Sly Gloves, which makes that secondary faction very cheap, then that's still a pretty good pickup. I think I'll pick up the Bramble Cutlass then. Gives your hero thorns. Also actually quite a good Elder Relic. There's some very fun stuff you can do with that. Just makes slow plans where you kind of have a slow setup, scale in the early turns. That relics makes it so you don't have to deal with the board in those early turns at all, because the enemy minions just die after they attack one time. And yeah, I think that's already it in terms of the relics. So let's look at trinkets. So I think I'm gonna ban Relentless again. It increases cost, and there are death rattles in the deck, like Ancient Scholar would benefit from having Relentless, drawing 2 cards, but it would also make it a 3 cost, which means it would be exempt from dual blades and take away my turn 2 plays. And I would say that this card is pretty a pretty fast deck. So not that interested in Relentless. Thorns on this map is actually pretty good because there is first of all you can get a trinket which makes Thorns permanent. So in that case, Thorns 2 would just turn into power +2, and then there's a relic where you can get lifesteal. So on this map, I'm actually just gonna leave Thorns unbanned. -1 to everything. I'm not that interested in. Stats are quite an important part in the discard package, I would say. So for the most part, I prefer seeing just straight up -1 cost. There's a question of whether I want to leave lifesteal in or not. I could put lifesteal on something like Ancestral Worm. It would make it more expensive, but I can also bring the cost down. Like if I have a way to supercharge my discard, then it is actually quite possible to get those 8 discards to make it go down into like the 2 cost range. +3 health might be something that I don't want to see. Minions that want to get health for this would mostly be just uncommons. Abraxas doesn't care about +3 health. Abraxas is gonna get a lot of health of the effect anyway, so yeah. So instead I want to see better epics. If I do see epics like Overgrow and Rush are gonna be pretty good. Dual Strike can be pretty good. Double stats can be pretty good. So yeah, I think that's relics and trinkets done. Starter deck done. So let's start off with Brewfizz. Who has the Fizzball tap, where he gets a Frosty Fizzball every turn. That does 2 things, or actually 3 things. It freezes a minion, it moves it, and it also gives him armor. So actually very versatile spell, really good. You can get your hands on those relics on that map yourself. But yeah, makes Brewfizz quite tanky. Makes his removal quite potent, and also means that it can be hard to figure out how to block exactly. And then there's the Cryomancer Tunic, where when frozen enemy minions die to summon Shiver Shade, which of course synergizes with the tap because it's gonna freeze something, and then if it dies, it gets a Shiver Shade, which is gonna do extra damage. It's quite a tough boss. If you let him get too much armor, he'll also convert that armor into extra setups. So yeah, lives long, eventually gets the ult, which gets some very strong minions, and then can just overpower that you that way. My plan is mostly just gonna be try to supercharge the discard in the deck, try to look for dual blades, and just overwhelm the enemy in like 2 or 3 turns to the point where that sustain will not be enough to out-heal my damage. And it's actually gonna be a pretty similar plan for the other bosses as well, because for those bosses, it's basically the same thing, where if you take too long, then you are in big trouble. Okay, so for those maps, I can go over the events I know. Mushroom Glade can either give you a mask which gives you 5 damage at the beginning of battle, just for free, 5 damage, which is quite okay. Not gonna matter that much in the boss fight, but if you get it before the mid-boss, who has 20 health, that's like 25% of the health, which is actually quite decent, especially if you're playing some kind of aggro deck. Or I think with Adventurous, you can get into an extra battle for a Blitzburst replacement. And there are some Blitzburst replacements that are pretty decent in this. Like, you can get the Brewfizz Blitzburst, where you convert armor into stats. That's quite fun to use, although do beware that fight is pretty dangerous. It's a poison fight with the new poison cards, which are quite powerful. Bandit Camp, if you have aggressive, you can get some extra money over at this node. That's okay. Ironbug Armory is there's a relic shop with a couple of weapon based relics you can find here. The best find on this node, I'd say, is the relic which gives you lifesteal on any kind of thorns minions. You're not guaranteed to see it, but yeah, alternatively there's the Vital Edge, which gives you damage whenever you play spells. Not that good since you're kind of punished for playing spells, but I guess it's like a nice offset. And I think there's also a Thorns based relic. Alternatively, you can get the Thorns lifesteal relic in the puzzle fight. Just like the last map, this one has a puzzle fight where you don't fight with your deck, but you have a predetermined assortment of cards and a board state where you either have to clear out the minions to kill the enemy hero, or just clear out the minions by playing the correct cards in the correct order. And there, I think you're actually guaranteed to see the Lifesteal Thorns relic, or you can also get the relic which gives you that sustain spell every single turn. I don't actually see the 2 biggest events, like the one that I find strongest so far. There's like a little frog where you can get a trinket which makes your thorns permanent, just make them into plus power instead of just retaliation damage, and also an epic plus 4 thorns trinket. And there's another one where you can get the ramp trinket, just like on the very first map, for legendary minions, and a trinket that increases the cost of something by 1, but makes it into a buff for every minion on the board, which can be something very interesting for some decks as well. Yeah, but neither of these 2 are present. I don't remember what the Sprouting Meadow does. Maybe I want to find out. Although I do kind of want to go to the puzzle fight, which leaves me with the Ancient Scholar as my secondary elite battle. Again, since I haven't played on that map that much, I haven't memorized the fights to the point where I can say like, oh, this is the dangerous fight you want to avoid. This fight is easy, so yeah. Although I do remember that that guy can be pretty annoying. That's the self-damage thing. Deals draconic damage, draws extra cards, and then can like stuff the board with oh, actually he doesn't have the Wisp card. But you can still use that damage from the relic to make those menaces extra strong, or to buff up those corrupted guts. And he's also not running out of cards. Eventually, he'll just die from all the self-damage, but he might just kill me before that happens. Whizbang is pretty removal heavy, that I remember. That could be difficult for the kind of discard deck I'm playing. So maybe I'll take on the second elite and just get the puzzle fight for the extra relic. Right, Ancestral Worms, I actually like that quite a bit. It means that I start buffing up my Blitz Burst quite early. And yeah, then I'm gonna play Ancient Scholar. Nice, and it hits the big cost card with Flux. So hopefully I can play 2 Tiny Ancients next turn. Yeah, looks like I can. So at this point I can only discard Flux cards. And you see, like with the draw I have with my deck from the very beginning, I am soon running out of cards, but I'm also very soon going to have my ult. Alright, one more dragon and I'm blasting the enemy for at least 40 damage. And yeah, 48 damage. Looks like this actually goes off the base cost as well, because this card only costs 2, but its base cost is 8, so the cost reduction doesn't even weaken the ultimate damage I'll be doing. Alright, so there's a neutral pack I don't particularly care about. Natsuki is kind of cool, because she can provide some extra draw, but yeah, there's another neutral pack I don't particularly care about. Smithy can kind of offset the loss of health from playing spells by giving you armor instead. Bartender Cell gives you a bunch of sustain spells, but kind of slow for what I'm intending to do. But there's Ancient Flax with some great things. So Cursed Tome, drew 2 cards at the 1 cost, but discard them at the end of the round. So kind of if you are familiar with Magic, kind of like those cards where you exile a card and can play it until the end of turn, just like some temporary draw, so to speak. very good to find the minions you need to, especially if you have a lot of cheap minions, that extra draw can matter a lot. If you draw one of your expensive minions, it can buff up the ultimate. If you draw one of your flux minions, then it's just a draw with no downside. Or you can just draw the two cards and leave them to be discarded intentionally, just to get your Ancestral Worm down faster, to boost your ult even further, to get your relic benefits. So pretty great card overall. And another Ancient Scholar. Yeah, I mean, I have to pick the whole pack, but I would be too unhappy about picking up another one of those. Dark Thoughts is a little bit, well, so it says discard a spell, gain +2 draconic damage this turn only. It's pretty good with the Elder Relic, actually. The one that deals draconic damage on the enemy board. Because you'll immediately discard a card and trigger the relic with buff damage, with 5 instead of 3. The fact that it only discards spells does mean that it kind of protects your minions from being discarded. There are also some spells that want to be discarded, particularly there is Brimstone, which gives you damage buffs whenever it is discarded to all of your dragon minions. So if you only have that spell in your hand, then this is a very targeted discard. Also, if you have some kind of spell generator, like any sort of relic that gives you a spell every turn, this makes Dark Thoughts more consistent in its trigger. But compared to the other discard effects, it doesn't really have a immediate benefit. Like, you either need to have like the Elder Relic, or you need to have draconic spells that benefit from that damage buff. But you have already spent 2 mana to play this, so you might not have the mana to play something that wants this draconic damage buff. And you also might have just discarded the spell you wanted to play. If you have like a draconic spell in your hand without Flux and you discard it with Dark Thoughts, then, well, what are you going to play? No. But I think it can become useful, so I would probably strike it out with them without the Fringed Bias, but it's still okay. So, there's some good news and some bad news about the tap-in recruits. Bad news is nothing really likes to have their cards disappear. Good news is most other decks for Abraxas have the 3 skull difficulty rating for that exact reason, which means you get a bunch of money if you do decide to pick up any recruit, which mostly interests me if I saw like a lot of trinket shops early on, because trinkets are usually quite expensive compared to relic shops. However, from what I saw, I'm not actually getting any trinket shop before the puzzle fight if I do want to go there, so that does mean that I'm not super interested in picking up Abnormal Brass. Cutlass Wine is still a pretty good pickup. If I don't find the dual blades, then she's gonna be a pretty good target for all of the extra damage buffs. Then Buccaneer can be alright for the early game, but it's probably gonna be my first remove. Dragonbrand has the advantage of having a Flux card in the starting deck, and also having some dragon cards, like Dragonbrand and Void Agent. There's also like the Skull Recruit, which can both work with and make other minions work better with dual blades. If I find Dewey Pantaloons, that would be okay. It would mean that the Ancient Scholar would be draw positive. And I still get a good chunk of gold. So, yeah, I think I'll pick up Dragonbrand. Dragonbrand might be one of the few decks that actually isn't completely hindered by Abraxas. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting relic choice. Probably fighting Moss Muncher next. Alright, so none of these I like. Cursed Pearl, Pirate Minions revive as once. Only pirates in my deck are Skull Recruits. Well, I guess there's 1 to 2 made a Dragonbrand, but these are expensive. Slug Doves. Other factions cost 2 less. Do you see any other factions in here? Not me. And Grind death effects deal draconic damage to the enemy hero. I mean, I have a good amount of death effects, but I don't have any scaling on my draconic damage other than 1 copy of Dark Thoughts. And that's not as good as some of the other relics I could see. I do want my other relic to be good, and I do want to see other relics at my relic nodes, so I am going to use one reroll. And ooh, that is a great lineup. That's probably the best I could see here. Either the Dewey Pantaloons for extra death triggers, so that's extra stat ups from the Skull Recruits, that's extra damage from the Void Ancient, that's extra draw from the Ancient Scholars. Soul Spark gives me extra discards, but would cost me some health, or I just picked Brewfizz. So I think Brewfizz is probably best choice. But since I'm gonna go through all of the maps, and Dual-Blades is a neutral relic, it's very likely that I'll pick up the Dual-Blades on all of the other runs, so maybe I'll just go with the Dewey Pantaloons. Yeah, let's try the Dewey Pantaloons, see where that goes. Alright, yeah. I think I'm gonna exchange the Void Ancient, look for a 1 or 2 drop, but I like the Ancestral Worm as a good discard target, and I like the Skull Recruit as an early card. Yeah, let's just get my Jordan going. And I have more than 5 cards, so now my relic, not my relic, my mask starts doing its thing, which is good, because it makes the Ancestral Worm cheaper and buffs my ult. And then I'm gonna play Cursed Storm. I'm not gonna be able to play those cards, but I can just use them as fodder for cheap Ancestral Worms, and you can see how quickly they go down in cost. Like, at this point they are already in Dual-Blades range. It's much stronger than anything you could see from something like the Soul Skin Ancient, which pretty much fulfills the same role. And I think I'm just gonna stack my worms. Actually, would have been better to play the Tiny Ancient. But yeah, I think it's not really possible to stop those 2 worms. But it is for funsies. Alright, so Ancient Commander, where it can summon Death Dragons when it dies, but all of the Death Dragons that it can summon are kind of less expensive than it. Like, it can get me a Dragonbrand on the board, perhaps, or an Ancestral Worm, if I draw it before the Worm, but with the amount of dragons I have in my deck, it's most likely gonna get out a Ancient Scholar or Tiny Ancient. And if it does that, then I won't get the plate effect from those, so it's kind of bad. Dustling gives minions with unique classes +1/+1. It is a 2-cost, so it just triggers 3 Pantaloons. So it would buff like Tiny Ancients and Scope Recruits. So I have like dragons and pirates in the deck. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm keeping the Scope Recruits. It's kind of nice as they get +2/+2 as a buff in total. But on most turns, I'm probably more interested in getting extra draw from the Ancient Scholar, or extra damage from the Void Ancient. And Molten Skin Ancient is kind of... don't really like this one. It's also quite expensive. Now the Dark Thoughts still have no reliable way of always having a spell in hand. Bomb is actually quite good, but Dragonblast is a little bit weak, so I don't know if I want that. Bartender Cell. Don't think I want that. I think all of these kind of bloat my deck. Sustain is cool, but I am seeing the puzzle fight where I can get the Thorn Slaves to my deck, so I'm just gonna leave. And yeah, then I'm gonna remove the Skull Recruit. I think I want to keep the density of my dragon cards as high as possible. Right now, with the extra draw from the Ancient Scholar, and with like 12, 13, I guess, well, with like 12 cheap dragons in the deck, I can get to my ult really fast. And yeah, move towards the puzzle fight. So there is Cindersuit Grog, adds 2 Cindersuit Monkeys to my hand at the beginning of the fight. I mean, that is free discard fodder, but it's also very cheap fodder. Swift Dagger, after my opponent plays the first minion in the turn, deal 1 damage to it. That's definitely stronger than it looks. Or give a random card in my hand first. So this means that like my Ancient Scholars and Tiny Ancients sometimes will not be discarded. I think that Royal Glaive is a pretty good relic. I don't know if I want to pick up the Swift Dagger. So one of my relics is gonna go to whatever I'm gonna pick at the puzzle fight. And then the other one still wants to be a Ceremonial Garb, which I'm gonna look for. I don't find the Ceremonial Garb, however I do find the Mimicking Melody. Also Witcher's Wardstone is pretty good. Silence and destroy all enemy minions. with the opponent having an ult that can super buff all minions on the board, and with me not having any board keys in the deck right now, it's kind of good. Can also get buffed by the Royal Glaive, is also quite expensive. Which makes it a good discard target. But it's also kind of not guaranteed that the Royal Blade will hit it. So thing with the Mimic Ring is, unless I actually find the Ceremonial Garb, it's not gonna be that great, because for the most part it'll just be 2 damage to the Blitz Burst per turn and 1 cost reduction on the bow. I think I'll still pick it up though. Because if I do find the Ceremonial Garb, it's probably better than the Puzzle Fight Relic. Puzzle Fight Relic is only good if I get some good thorns going. Which, right now, I can see like 2 Janker Traps if I want to. But possibly without the chance to reroll. That's... Okay, so reduce the enemy health to 0, which means I have to make space for the Spy-Shard Phantoms somehow. So, for example, if I can kill like all 3 of those Abraxas, that'd be 10 damage of Brooch, which would kill the enemy. I feel like this is actually pretty simple. I just use the Venom Capsule, which always clears out the row in front. So then these 2 Abraxas die, and the Noxious Arrow kills 1. And that's 6 plus 4, that's 10 damage. Yeah, that's... I swear some of these puzzle fights are a lot harder. Other ones don't really even do anything to kill the enemy. Alright, so Elder Relic, summon Grimkins, which would replace my extremely good 2 Pantaloons, so I don't want that. Then Frosty Fistful every turn. Does give me some armor, but it's a bit slow to play. And right now, in terms of discarding cards, I kind of prefer discards hitting like the Worms and Abraxas and even Dragonbrand. So I want the Doomhook, and then either I find Thorns and get some lifesteal, or if I don't find them, I'm gonna hunt for Ceremonial Garb, which would work well with the Mimic Ring. Card shop. So there's Armor Up and Wild Aces. Another Curse Stone, which is quite good. And some death stuff I don't care about. So I could not afford the Tome and the Wild Aces. Removal's not too bad either. I want to get rid of that Haunted Crewmate. He doesn't do anything. He gets a cost reduction, I guess. He could benefit off the Louis Pantaloons, but he's just gonna make something spawn a 2/2, which is not doing anything for me. So I think that's just a remove and a tome. And then Soulskin Ancient I don't like. Grand Magretto is very, very expensive. In a way that doesn't benefit my deck. Like, I do want expensive minions to get my ult going, but I want it in the form of like flux cards, which can You discard it multiple times, and that also kind of benefit of my plan. So I guess I could also move Dragonbrand if I want to. Do I want to? Probably it's... And then I don't have money for a relic shop, so I go to a campfire and duplicate... It's actually a good question. What do I duplicate? I could dupe an Ancestral Burn. I could dupe a Curse Tome. I think both are pretty good. 3 Curse Tomes means that I'm gonna get my worm cost down real fast. Although 2 tomes, 2 turns of Melody Ring, that's already 6 discards. So actually the worm is already going down in cost pretty quickly. So I think I'll pick up another worm. Cost my Blitz Burst as well. Then I'm probably going like Trinket Shop. Look for money in the bandit camp. I do have aggressive. I do like the idea of having one more campfire. I could get a campfire on the far left side as well, but then I only see 1 trinket shop. I think 2 trinket shop and a campfire is pretty good, because then I can look for thorns first, and if I don't find thorns, I can look for ceremonial garb in the final relic node. But yeah, let's deal with the boss first, who has the Thorns lifesteal and a bunch of Thorns spirits. Should not be much of a problem. I don't mind the Thorns, because even if my minions die, right now I am very much playing around the Blitz Burst as a win con. And I think this is mostly a fine hand. Not yet sure if I want to keep the Void Ancients. If I find a damage buff, I might, because then they're worth like 8 damage. But if I don't, they kind of don't contribute. Also, Rogue Life Animation Plate gave this Tiny Ancient Flux. So I want to play this Tiny Ancient that doesn't have Flux, because I play this and it might hide the Flux, not discard this. But I play the Flux minion and it hits the other Tiny Ancient, and that Tiny Ancient does get lost. So it hits Abraxas anyway, which is the best target to hit. That's +2 extra mana right there. And then I'm gonna play a Tiny Ancient and a Tome. Get 3 discards out already. Bolting for 16. Keep playing Dragon Minions, and the Worm is already a 0 cost. Yeah, so definitely worth duping the Worm over the Tome. I draw one of my cheap dragons, I'm getting the ult next turn. Cheap minions, including Ancestral Worm, because it's just that strong. Now I'm blasting the enemy for 23. So yeah, I didn't get any worms discarded. So most of my discards came from discarding the cheap mimicking melodies, but 23 is still plenty to blast the enemy immediately. Alright, so boss reward time. Still wants to keep giving me those bartender cells. With a bunch of stat buffs. That thing can give me access to thorns by the spell. I'm still not convinced though. It's not a dragon minion. Enchanted armor, when the opponent plays a spell, gains some extra stats. Kind of a stalling minion, aka a minion I'm not interested in. I mean, the boss is playing quite a few spells, but this is where the pinch price lasts. It's noticeable because I would probably pick up a Blood Oath with extra draw. Destroy a friendly minion, draw 3. So it has the pouch of possibilities. That's a strong card. But do I wanna get to pretty much use this 4 mana by fast with inanimate? Not really. And then there is low life fishes with trample. I do wonder, so this deals spell damage in front of the minion it's played before. There are spells that deal trample, so I wonder if like I buff the damage on this thing, whether trample would apply to that. So yeah, trample Lord Fish is kind of interesting concept. But for this deck, it is not a discard card, and it is not a dragon. So I can spend a reroll. I think I'd rather have it for better trinkets though. Also, I'm having that bug again where I can't see my full deck, so let me just open and close the game real quick. Alright, I'm back. And deck works as normal. Thing I also noticed is that when this bug happens, everything in the map view is sped up, which probably means that the game thinks that it's still in battle mode for some reason. Because like I have my battle animation speed increased, and so like I see the deck as it was during the battle, and the animation speed is as it is in battle. So like for some reason it must be that whatever keeps track on whether I'm on the map or in a battle that doesn't get updated. Yeah, so let's just hope it gets fixed. It's nothing game breaking, but it is annoying to have to do that when it happens. And yeah, trinket shop over card shop. I've already gotten my removes I'm interested in. I have 0 trinkets so far, so I definitely want to get going on that now. Plus health, flying, and trample. Trample I'm definitely interested in. It's actually a tough choice between trample and flying. Trample means that I can deal with enemy threats on the board. If I put this on like Ancestral Worm. But flying is faster if I just want to finish off the enemy. I think I kind of like the idea of flying. This can also still deal with enemy minions just by blocking with its body. In the fight, there are also some minions with a death rattle. And in that case, I might prefer flying over trample as well to not trigger that death rattle. So yeah, I think in this case, flying is preferable over trample. Then +2 health on something. Do I really care? Like, if anything, it would be the Ancestral Worm. But only if I had the money to spend, I'd do it. Because I want to get Thorns on this as well, possibly. It's my biggest power minion, which means that the Doom Hook would work best with the Worm. So, I'm probably keeping my reroll till I see the next trinket shop, where I have more money to spend. So now it's just a question of... The enemy has quite a bit of removal. And frost as well, so +2 health could actually matter quite a bit. And other than flying, I don't think there's much I'd want to get on this. Like, it's probably better to get a different tanking trinket on this, like tough and barrier are probably preferable. But I don't know if I see those, like out of 6 trinkets. Other thing with +2 health is that it makes the enemy spell stronger. That gives them armor. The spell that freezes a minion, its armor equal to its health, and moves it. 8 armor is actually enough to immediately fill up the enemy ult, which is kind of bad. So yeah, I think I hold off on +2 health and hope that I'll find barrier and or tough instead. Trample could go on Abraxas, I guess, as well. Don't really hope that the game is gonna last to the point where Abraxas is a card I want to play. But if it does get to that point, it's good for Abraxas to have the trample. Because I don't just want to see 12 damage or however strong Abraxas will be to be blocked by a one-drop. And yeah. This wants to die, this wants to die. So no other +2 health. Right, so bandits, I can get 50 for free, I can get 100 for free, I can get 100 on a battle, or I can remove for 50. So, yeah, I guess I'll just get 100 for free. Bandit fight can be dangerous. Like most event battles are. I think out of the event battles, bandits are on the easier side, but out of all the battles as a whole, it's still potentially dangerous. And since I'm not in a daily where I have to hunt for a score, there is just literally no reason to take that fight. So, here's the Salty Rogue. Nice. 4 dragons, 4 discards. That's pretty cool. I think this should be a fight I can win before the bandit flees. If we take more than 8 turns, Soldier Rogue runs away, which, as far as I've noticed, doesn't actually change anything about the outcome, but I guess it's still an interesting challenge. And I'm just gonna spend my coin right now. Just bandit traps will be somewhat that was the wrong card to play. I didn't notice that it got fluxed, but no matter. But yeah, bandit traps might be a bit annoying to play because my deck is very thin. So those extra bandits are gonna spawn. And you know, I play the non-fluxed Ancient Scholar. I draw and discard the same card. I think at the next campfire I'm gonna do another Ancestral Worm. I really want to get that in my hand because it's the main power source of my Ancient Oblivion. And this was Cursed Stone, yeah, so I wanna leave that in. That's 3 discards and gives me a huge uptick in my Blitz damage. Ooh. That's an interesting interaction that I haven't considered yet, but yeah, autocast cards will cause me to take damage from the mask. So anything that adds cards to my deck, like bombs or brigade traps or evolve. Although evolve mostly adds the cards to the enemy deck, but there are some cards which put buff caps in my deck as well. But all of these kind of hurt extra. And ran out of cards just in time for Ancient Oblivion. Kaboom. And I can get a loot sack on Abraxas is the only legal recipient, but it kind of just sucks. After dealing damage to the enemy heroes, deal 10 gold. Like, I get it so late. I only have 1 card to put it on, which I barely even play, and it takes away a trinket slot and it makes the trinket more expensive by 50 gold, so it has to attack 6 times to make it worth it. I still don't really see the loot sack as being a good trinket. It's just like best target would probably be Cutlass Wine. She's legendary and epic and quite cheap and has dual strike and rush, so it can get like 20 gold. But you also kind of just want to put trinkets that buffer. This is kind of the issue, where most minions that make this usable really want their trinket slots to get better buffs, and on the other minions you kind of don't care about having your loot sack on, so I mostly just leave it on the ground. And yeah, I have another worm, which would force me to take 2 victors. On play, discards the hand and summons copies of all the minions that were discarded. I have a lot of cheap minions that don't really care about being cheated out by Victor. But it is a 9 cost, of course. And right now my deck could use a little bit of meat. I have good draw with those tomes. And I am interested in another burn. Chaos Tome is also not too bad. Blood Oath also gives me extra draw. Tsuki gives me extra draw. Although Tsuki might just die very quickly. But I am kind of afraid of decking myself if I put 3 extra draw cards into my deck. So I think I like to beef it up a little bit. Ancestral Worm is definitely worth picking up. Victor doesn't really do much, but he does contribute to the Blitz Burst at least. And I probably use the Campfire then to get another Curse Tome. And if Curse Tome draws into a Victor, that's pretty good. Oh jeez. Looks like I got the Campfire bug as well. Seems like this game is a little bit cursed, so let me restart it once again. Back again. Let's hope the game doesn't freeze this time. Good. And yeah, go towards the Trinket Shop. What I find, +2 damage. +2 damage is fine on Void Ancient. Guard is fine on the Ancient Scholar, I think. I don't think there's anything I really want on the Ancient Scholar. And with the amount I have a pretty good uptime on Guard. Guard halves the damage dealt by the enemy. With the enemy getting some stat buffs and all, it might not be a bad idea to have a source of Guard on the board. +1 power. So it would put me to 190 points. Actually, if I buy +1 power, I can't get the reroll for the extra trinket. And I still want to look for thorns. So yeah, actually this is a reroll to get it as a restock. And ooh, I do get the thorns. I also get the barrier. So question now is which is more important. Because I can't get both on the worm. Right? This is 90 and this would be 160. 160 plus 90 is 250. So yeah, that is too much. Can I spread it? Actually, 90 and 110 would be doable. Would mean that I'm not getting the extra draw, which might have been kind of cool on the Cursed Tome, although with the amount of draw I'm getting, it's definitely not necessary. And lifesteal on Void Ancient does mean that it should get the lifesteal of the damage trigger itself. So it immediately steals 4 life. When it dies, it steals 4 life. When it blocks, it steals 4 life. That's actually a good bit of lifesteal. More than the worm, although the worm has a higher quantity in the deck. But yeah, I kind of want the worm to have the barrier so that it is more likely to get its flying attack out. So I think I'll actually spread my buffs around. And that also means that I am content with the Doomhook. Now, Doomhook now has a target for the Void Ancient, So I'm probably not going to the relic node and instead just seeing 2 more campfires. Maybe get 2 more Void Ancients. Gives me extra lifesteal and a good bit of damage as well. Like 8 damage per Void Ancient means that like 2 of them drain half of that guy's HP. That's not too bad. And I am a bit low on 3 drops right now. I mean, it's nothing too noticeable because I can, with the draw I have, I can also play just an Nature Scholar and a Tiny Ancient. Also wouldn't hurt. Yeah, I think I like this. Can just cast Storm. And now I am discarding cards, but with the amount of flux I have, it is still a real draw and it also gives me a big buff. Like this just is plus 10 damage when I burst. Damn, it got discarded twice. Don't know what happened there exactly. Oh, it got discarded by the Cursed Tome, and then it just got discarded by the Mask. That's how I get 2 discards in one turn. I get it. But yeah, in 1 turn, this is already up to 20. So now it's just a matter of getting it out. And yeah, my hand is very full, but again, this mask is just completely free buffs. Can just start pressuring the enemy with flying ancestral worms. Get my lifesteal off. Works exactly as I wanted to. I'm just gonna remove these. Gonna let the Ancestral Worm discard. $64 damage. My Blitz Burst is racing with the Ancestral Worms for what kills the enemy first. And it looks like it's gonna be the Blitz Burst. Coming in at a whooping 66 damage. The way the Void Ancient is kind of shaking, it looks like the Void Ancient is the one casting the spell. That's kind of funny. But yeah, crazy stuff. Really, having a billion draw, I mean, it's always good in a card game. But yeah, using that draw to play a bunch of cheap minions to get a 60 damage spell off the ground. That's quite something. So, neutral minions, I don't care about. Another Worm, another Dark Thoughts, another Soulskin Ancient. Do I want it at this point? I have enough Worms, I think. 4 copies of those. And Soulskin Ancient isn't really doing much, and Dark Thoughts isn't really doing anything. Like, I haven't played this once, because I don't really want to play a spell. And I'm really getting enough discard from my minions. Or there is, like, some overgrow stuff. This is quite expensive. Lifesteal is cool, but I have lifesteal now as well. So I think this is actually just a straight up skip. And yeah, I'm gonna invest into some extra Void Ancients, because the boss might deal a good bit of damage, so I appreciate the extra lifesteal. So yeah, this 26 card deck. Thinner than most decks and super fast draw. And ideally I wanna draw Victor via Cursed Storm for the damage buff. Otherwise I kind of like the starting hand, just bunch of 1-drops, and this is Flux, that's good. I think I want to Cursed Storm. I don't want to play the Tiny Ancient and lose the Ancient Scholar if I can help it. And yeah, I'm drawn towards the Ancestral Worm. Double discarding it again, so that's another 20 damage buff open. Do that again? Question mark? Already got this down to 0. And yeah, also I forgot, but I shouldn't play any minions in the front. This guy has those Night Nap nibbles, which will steal minions in the front, and then give you a minion that hurts you when it dies. So you actually, whenever you can help it, only want to play minions in the back row. I always forget that at the start of the battle, but yeah, it's nothing too bad, it's just gonna steal a Tiny Ancient. But it would be very upsetting if I place down the Ancestral Worm and it just gets yoinked. So don't do that. Fluxed, alright, that's good. So I want to play the unfluxed Tiny Ancient. Then I'm gonna Scholar. And I'm gonna start pressuring the enemy with my Worm. Yeah, there's the nibble. Well, this lane is completely occupied, so here it actually doesn't hurt to put in a Tiny Ancient. Also means that the Tiny Ancient isn't gonna destroy the Night Nap nibble, although it will still die to the Shiver Shade, but yeah. I guess that just means get down and Ancestral Worm. Hope I draw a dragon next time. If I do, I can finish this pretty much on the next turn. Getting some armor, that is quite upsetting, however, every lane is blocked, so the damage buffs actually just go to waste. Also guarding against the face damage here coming from the Nightcap nibble, so this is actually as well as this turn could have gone. Whenever he ults, that can be a pretty scary turn, especially since the ult can go on minions that are already out of summoning sickness, so it's kind of hard to react to it. But yeah, since every lane was blocked and since I have some chunky minions down on the board, this was definitely far from the worst that can happen. So now, when I kill this, I take another 2 damage, bring me down to 27, which still leaves me in the loose 10's HP to sustain S rank. So I already have 49 damage stored up in this Oblivion. That's 3 plus a gazillion, so yeah, that's more than enough. The only thing that can go wrong is if one of those tiny ancients discards the other one. Alright, it did not happen, so... But even if it did, that would have been just one more turn to wait. The only danger is that you can get like some more face damage from like summoning Shiver Shades or something. So then I would have probably needed to wait to avoid Ancient to give me lifesteal, but it was unnecessary. Sit. I'm dealing more than double the required damage. Yeah. Extremely powerful. No dual blades necessary, it's just... I do like that about Abraxas. I feel like even though Abraxas is difficult to combine with other decks, there's actually quite a lot of variety in Abraxas. Like, you can go for a damage burst, but you can also play around the ult. You can also probably play around the other ult, which I haven't even tried yet. You can combine it with spell casting. So just in general, lots of things going on. She has, or he, I think Abraxas is actually a he. But yeah, Abraxas has a lot of relics, a lot of normal relics that he likes. So yeah, I think it's stupid fun. And yeah, so the video also turned out longer than I expected. I didn't talk all that much about the map, but instead I talked about one particular mercenary. Yeah, so perhaps my bias for Abraxas was showing. It was my favorite deck in the purple campaign, and at the time I was really on the edge of my seat waiting for the release of a discard deck in the roguelike campaign, because it didn't exist back then. Like the first purple factions to be unlocked were Res and then Dragonbrand, I think. But yeah, when I tried it out in the campaign mode, the discard deck was really fun, and now it's out in the roguelike mode as well. It has been out for a couple of months now, but I am very happy about being able to play it. So that means next time it's gonna be up against Greta, who is playing a lot of spells, doing some discard stuff as well. Spell discard combo, that's like a thing I used back in Dondal. Now it's used against us. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Abraxas and gonna see if I can build another strat. Still have some good archetypes left to show, like the dual blades I've mentioned, and quite possibly the Soul Spark. Although I'm not sure I'm gonna get the Soul Spark in one of the next two. Like, Greta kind of has a lot of removal, so it's hard to get a minion to stay on the board for long, and with the poison, Soul Spark might be too slow. Like, I think poison is one where I definitely want to go for dual blades. Just super fast. Kill the enemy in 4 turns or something. And Greta might be one where I play around the Blitz Burst again, just to circumvent the spell and removal heavy side of things. So yeah, See you next time.